Welcome to our Financial Literacy Education series. My name's Corin Jacker. I'm from Priority One Wealth Management Group. During this series, we're going to cover a range of topics to help you better understand your money, to help you better engage with your money, and to help you make better choices about your money. In today's episode, we're going to start with the key foundation of wealth creation, and that's managing your cash flow. It's really important to get an idea of the budget and what's coming in terms of your income and what's going out in terms of your expenditure before we can even discuss wealth creation considerations. Because the reason why we want to understand what's coming in versus what's going out and having that good understanding of your budget is we're trying to identify a surplus amount of income that you don't need to spend today that can be put aside for later. Then we can talk about wealth creation options. So let's put some context around this conversation. What do we need to live off? So currently, a couple for a comfortable lifestyle without debts or dependents, the figure's around $60,000 a year. For a single on a comfortable lifestyle, the figure's around $45,000 a year. And a modest lifestyle for a couple around $40,000 and a single around $30,000. Then, if you have children, you could probably add $10,000 a year for your first child and perhaps $5,000 a year for subsequent children. So as an idea, a family of four might live off potentially around $75,000 a year for a comfortable lifestyle. So this is a handy tool to put some context around creating your budget. Because there are a couple of ways to look at creating a budget. There's what I would call the bottom-up approach. So this is where we itemize every item of income that comes into the house and every expenditure that goes out of the house. And there are lots of apps online to help you do this. For many people, this is a successful exercise, but for many, it doesn't last long. They don't have the discipline and accountability to make sure they keep tracking it over the long term. The other way to look at budgeting is to look at the top-down approach. So to put some parameters around your spending based on those figures that I just mentioned. So if I've got a couple with two children, and let's say they want to set some wealth creation objectives and cut their spending a bit. So they might say, well, let's try and aim as a couple to spend somewhere in the mid-range of what a modest lifestyle is versus a comfortable lifestyle. So they might aim for about $50,000 a year. Then they'll add $10,000 for their first child and $5,000 for their second. So they might be trying to aim to live within a budget of about $65,000 a year. And then they look at their income and identify whether there's a good amount of surplus cash flow to be able to go to wealth creation concepts to help them achieve their objectives. If there's not a surplus income, or if there's not enough surplus income, then our options are either generate more income, which may be easier said than done, or we revisit that budget, cut it back even further. So we could really cut back our spending in that couple situation and live off $40,000 for the couple, $15,000 for the children, so try and live off a budget of $55,000 in that case. So whether it's bottom-up approach where you identify every item of income and expenditure that you do, or whether it's a top-down approach where you just try and identify a broad level of expenditure compared to your income and identify a surplus, whatever works for you is the best approach to take. Because as I said before, we need to have a surplus amount of income to put towards wealth creation strategies. If we don't have that income or that surplus income, we can't have that conversation around wealth creation strategies. But some tips to look at this when you're considering your budget and your cash flow. The first thing is to actually really have a conscious decision about what is a need versus what is a want. In today's society, we seem to have gotten a little bit confused about what we really need versus what we actually want. Particularly with afterpay services where we can even easier now get things more instantly and have to worry about paying for them later it's even exacerbating that situation where we're getting things that we think we need, but we don't. So we don't really need that new phone. We don't need that new device. We don't need that bigger TV. We don't need that newer car. We probably don't need that bigger house. So have a really honest assessment about what you're spending, whether it's on things that you need versus things you want. And you might be able to cut back a lot of your expenditure using that simple tip. Some couple of rules that I like to have in place around your income that might set you up for some good saving habits. The first one is if you have a debt on top of the loan repayments that you're making, you should try and aim to save 10% of your income. Whether that goes towards further loan repayments or something else, that's another discussion. If you don't have a debt, you should be trying to aim to save at least 20% of your income somewhere. And if you're at home getting family support, so if you're a young adult who's working now but still at home, you should be looking at saving 50% of your income. So 50% of your income if you're living at home with family, 20% of your income if you don't have any debt, and 10% of your income if you're paying loans as well. If you stick with those rules of thumb in relation to your income, and we then make smart decisions about what we do with it, you'll set yourself up for some really good, healthy wealth creation habits. Keep an eye out for our other episode where we start looking at all the wealth creation options in detail about what we can do once we've identified that surplus level of cash, now that we've looked at our cash flow and our budget. Goodbye.